Good morning. Welcome to our first talk of today, which we are doing in collaboration with J Studio and Art Fair Philippines Talks education partners, the Ateneo Art Gallery, Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and the Embassy of Spain in the Philippines. A few guidelines before we begin. To ensure the smooth transmission of the talk or demo, the audio function will be limited to the moderator and speakers. Please type your question in the Q&A box, and I will read it out loud at the end of the conversation. For those who wish to ask their questions live, click the raise hand icon and we will unmute you so you can ask our panelists your questions live. So good morning. I'm Tricky Lopa, co-founder of Art Fair Philippines, and welcome to Conversations on Clay Segment 2. Concepts in Clay. We had a very spirited session yesterday, so we are very excited for today. Putting together this whole, all the three segments of Conversations on Clay is Mr. Pablo Capati III. It was in 1989 in Kobe, Japan, when Pablo K. Capati III first learned pottery, taking up ceramics at 13 years old. This interest remained as he went on to pursue higher learning in USC, where he took a course in alternative firing techniques in 1996. In 2000, he resurrected this interest initially as a hobby and finally establishing his studio in San Jose, Batangas in 2003. So we'd like to welcome Pablo to the stage. Good morning, Pablo.
Hello, good morning, Jackie.
Hi. So let me turn over to you.
Again.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited for today's session. I learned so much yesterday, so I can't wait for today.
Thank you very much, Tricky. Yeah, it was really an eventful day yesterday. Let's get started then. Good morning, everybody. I'm Pablo Capati III. Welcome to Conversations on Clay. I want to thank Art Fair Philippines and J Studio for making this project possible. And today we're going to be presenting a clip on segment number 2, part 2 of Conversations on Clay. The title is Concepts on Clay. We're very lucky today that we are being joined by two very, very young and talented artists, both graduates from the University of Fine Arts, Diliman. They have background in traditional pottery, yet they went to avant-garde concepts with regards to creating installations for their exhibitions to express their ideas and thoughts on how to make sculptures through clay. Our presenters today is Miss Ella Mendoza. Ella has a double major in University of the Philippines, majoring studio arts in painting and in art history. After Ella graduated from the University of the Philippines, she directly became a full-time ceramic artist and established her studio in Marikina. Our next presenter is Krista Nogueras. Krista is also a graduate of University of the Philippines in Fine Arts Department, VISCOM. After Krista graduated, she continued pursuing her digital career and also at the same time started doing exhibitions for her installations through Art Informal Philippines. So Therese, let's get started and play the clip, please.
Welcome to Conversations on Clay, Concepts and Installation with Clay as a Video.
I took up Bachelor of Fine Arts, major in Visual Communication at UP Diliman. And then after I graduated, hindi naman ako nag-jump immediately to ceramics. So mas nag-work ako on found objects like mga scrap metals, salvage wood, and mga fabrics actually. Kung ano yung makita ko nun na available sa akin, mas doon ako nag-work. By 2015, doon na ako nag-decide to really jump into pursuing my lifelong passion and interest with sculpting. Doon ko na-encounter yung ceramics when I actually enrolled sa extension program ng UP Fine Arts. Ang okay sa clay kasi it's very intimate. It's a very intimate medium and it really allows you to really have that connection, like personal and even spiritual connection because very receptive siya with your touch. When you're working with clay kasi parang ano siya sobrang calming niya in a sense but also very challenging. So in a way, when you're working with it, actually like having a conversation and you're getting to know the clay and at the same time, it gives you the chance to know yourself. When you're trying to work with clay, given na yung yung materiality niya, yung malleability niya. Pero what I really love about ceramics is the discipline and the process. I pursued ceramics then because at that time I was trying to navigate and live with my chronic anxiety. That time I was like, okay, I want to pursue my passion and I think this is the perfect material for me. And akala ko that time, clay is very therapeutic. I was getting deeper into the practice. Hindi na siya nakaka-relax eh. So, yung transition nga from finding it very challenging, na-realize ko din na yun yung essence ng practice ng journey. It's a journey actually. And then, nung mas na-realize ko at mas naintindihan ko yung journey, mas naging transformational siya. With that, I get to really understand the material, the technicalities, the process. It's a mix of basically arts and science yan eh. And mas nagkaroon ako ng chance to really explore vast ideas that you can translate your work into. You can maximize all the technique. You can integrate different techniques kasi sobrang full range nung material niya. So you can really approach it in different angles. It really roots to experience, emotions, experience. And mostly yan, parang it's an urge. So sometimes you're curious about things, you question things, or you just want to explore ideas. And when I have that itch to explore on something or to translate it into a work, ano siya parang ang natural ng connection ko sa pag-translate niyo with the medium itself. Discipline, the behavior, and the process, yung may firing involved, yung behaviors ng clay, it correlates also with my concepts, which mostly I touch on points na very psychological and very parang yung mga issues that I dab. When I have that idea, actually mas iniisip ko dalawang bagay, yung space Tsaka syempre yung forms. I do sketch. Sometimes I sketch sa papel, o minsan naman I tend to like sketch using clay also, or found objects. Nagmi-mini installation ako to get that feel. For me, by feel siya for me eh. Yun din yung isa sa okay sa clay, parang as a material also, it guides you. Kasi kung sasabihin mo lang, yeah, by feel, hindi ko pa feel, ang dami ko pang gusto, pero the clay itself, kung kabisado mo siya, meron din siyang, may threshold din siya eh. Kung hanggang kailan lang, kasi kung mabubugbog mo yung clay, pwede rin siyang, you know, mag-overwork. Bottom line, relationship pa rin with your medium. Sobrang ecstatic ako having my own kiln right now after 7 years.
Wow, 7 years.
Oo, 7 years din yun na nakiki-fire lang ako. I rent or nakiki-fire ako sa community kiln ng UP. And I guess that's the beauty of the ceramic community, yung sense of family. You get to really help each other, andun yung support. Feeling ko mas easier ngayon, especially with the availability of various clays, raw materials, definitely. Even kiln, you know, acquiring kiln is so easy right now. Noon parang pahirapan talaga, o parang suntok sa buwan magka-kiln dati. Everything's online right now. So even workshops, makaka-attend ka na ng mga workshops internationally or even locally. Ang dami na ngayon. So yeah, I guess mas madali ngayon.
There's more access.
Yeah, there's more access.
Sobrang intimidating niya for me kasi ako yung background ko sa arts is very traditional, two-dimensional. So
Yeah.
3D was very new for me. So fast forward, when I took my second degree, art history, I was able to get an elective sa ceramics. Ibang mundo siya. Because when I experienced clay again, naintindihan ko yung multiplicity ng nature niya. Tapos when I had that class, I took that class, there was such a sense of community. So from then, hinatak na ako ng material. When it comes to the thought process or creative process, for me, it's not so much as inspiration. Parang may itch when I encounter something that concerns me from immediate experiences or everyday situations. Parang nagkakaroon ng questions sa utak ko. So yung questions na yun, I want to try to address that through making art. So that's how I access yung creative process. With the way I approach working, making art, lagi nandun yung current situation. Because I want to approach making ceramic works na iniisip ko na magiging
What's going on?
artifacts siya for the future. So parang I also go back to the history of ceramics. Okay, so for my thesis, I had to try to plot kung saan nag-umpisa yung Philippine contemporary ceramics. So I had to go back to the history of ceramics from pre-Hispanic times, tapos hanggang sa dumating sa industrial. Sinubukan kong hanapin yung beginnings. Studio pottery was not such a familiar thing. So yung mga nag-umpisa nun, they had to scavenge for or search for raw materials, as in dig their own materials, test them. Even with information sobrang scarce. With planning for exhibitions or planning for works. For installations most especially, you work backwards because you work with space. Most, if not all, ceramic works have to be experienced in the round. So you try to put yourself in the shoes of the audience. I'm very flexible working with functional wares and then sculptural wares. Fueled by that fundamental sa traditional. That became an advantage for me when I made sculptural works. When I started making the tin cans, yung series na yun, I was thinking of the way the tin cans are mass-produced. Tapos parang pumasok sa akin na gusto ko siyang i-challenge yung process of making the tin cans. So since I was working on the wheel a lot of the times, nag-iisip ako ng form na symmetrical.
Okay,
so parte na rin yun, yung challenging the process. It's trying to challenge din the actual things.
I've been very fortunate to have been invited for a month-long residency. This is in collaboration with Boxplot and TU Collab.
The whole experience was definitely very different kasi there's only so much planning that you can do. Pagdating mo dun,
changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Different.
We were actually given like a concept guide.
Okay.
And then prior to the residency, so we were like given a prompt about interrogating yung function sa ceramics. You have an initial concept, you know, you have that route. When you go there, syempre kasama na rin yung environment. You get to explore the country. Yung initial plan mo pa na work, mag-iiba pa siya accordingly sa available materials.
Or the setup of the
Lahat.
studio.
Oo. So basically, nung pumunta kami doon, we kind of accepted the fact na pagdating doon, spontaneous din siya. For the both of us, we just embraced the uncertainty. Doon na rin pumapasok yung, in a way, familiarity, tsaka yung knowledge mo. So on the spot mo siya, if you figure out,
Even the materials that we work with, parang you trust what they tell you kung anong gagawin nung clay na yon, nung glaze na yon.
it's very gratifying when you're able to do what you really love and you're being honest with your work. Very fortunate for these opportunities kasi it gives us the chance to not only to showcase our works with a wider audience, but also giving us a chance to like really grow our practice. Yeah, it gives us the opportunity to develop our bodies of work pa.
Okay, we have a few questions already. Are Ella and Krista coming out on screen?
Hi guys.
Good morning. My God, how fascinating.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Morning.
Okay, let's get started right away with the questions. Okay, two questions about about where you guys exhibit. Excuse me. Where do you have your exhibitions, or where do you exhibit locally? I can answer, but you guys might want to, because I've seen both your shows, enjoy them all.
Well, for me, I do my solo shows, art and formal. And then, of course, we have other group shows then with other artists, with different galleries then locally. And also, meron din kaming, bibigyan din kami ng chance to really exhibit our works internationally. So,
What about you?
Same with Krista. I do my solo shows with Art Informal, and then a few group shows with other galleries as well. And yung Singapore show, I think, was, I don't know for Krista, but it was my first exhibition outside of the country.
Okay, next question from Paulo Lozano, which is also my question. Ella, I was so interested in your thesis, and so is he. Can you share a little more about that thesis on the origins of Philippine contemporary ceramics? Is it available for us to read, or are there any museums or galleries where we can see the work of the pioneers? Or are there any publications that, that touch on these things?
Actually, the thesis, I can send to you via email if you're interested to read the whole thing. Kasi it's kind of long. Kasi it plots the history of ceramics from prehistoric times. Tapos the focus was on the development of Philippine contemporary ceramics as an art medium. So
Yeah, that sounds.
I can
really
email you the whole thesis if you want to read it.
Yeah, email it to me or email it to talks@artfairphilippines.com. And then Paolo Lozano, if you can just email, or we might have your email because you registered, we will send it to you, and I want a copy as well. So yeah, that sounds good. Okay, next question is from Catherine Choa Choi. How difficult or easy is it to sell sculptural work versus functional works?
Sige, I can answer first siguro kasi I make a lot of functional wares then. So, I guess siguro around 2018, I was primarily making conceptual work. So I wasn't making functional wares as much, but I do it on the side. So, ngayon naman nabaliktad kasi out of the need to survive, I make my functional wares more for selling. Tapos the conceptual works or the installations, parang bonus na lang for me if I get to sell them. So, si Krista might have a different or the same answer.
well, for me naman, mostly kasi I do sculptural works and installations. So, sa totoo lang, nung nag-start ako and nag-decide ako to really pursue that, hindi ko talaga siya inisip na makakabenta ako or something. I know it's very challenging. Even the sustainability of the practice, parang bago pa lang ako mag-dive in doon, alam ko na yung pinapasukan ko na challenging siya. So for me to be able to sustain my practice, I still pursue my work on the side. I still do my production work. I do art directing for clients and styling. And I guess yun talaga yung nag-allow sa akin to really do what may honest work din, kumbaga, no? Wala akong ibang iniisip kundi gagawin ko lang siya. So yun, I guess yun yung sa part ko. And of course, very grateful ako sa art scene natin dito kasi very appreciative talaga lahat yung audience, even the collectors, no? Sobrang bonus na nga lang din sa akin kung may bumili ng mga pyesa ko. And lalo na installation, di ba?
Pablo, what about you? Functional versus your sculptural works. I mean, you do.
In what sense again? Sorry.
The question was, do you find it difficult? How difficult or easy to sell sculptural works versus functional works?
Actually, lately I've been doing a lot of functional works because we've touched this issue about people learning these days how to use pottery for their daily in their daily food in their kitchen, and especially also like restaurants with celebrity chefs, they get the opportunity to use and collaborate with ceramic artists. So at this point in time, we are it's much people understand functional works a lot more as opposed to sculptural works. I find that pag commission works, people will ask for commission works on sculptural works. For exhibitions, so far I think the only gallery that's been very successful in exhibiting and selling sculptural installation is Art Informal of Tina Fernandez.
Okay. Krista, why snakes? What is your affinity to them? I saw that show, by the way, where there was a pit of snakes and you had to walk around it. It's very powerful, right?
Thank you. Well, siguro for me, no, well, serpents or snakes, kasi sa totoo lang, I'm really drawn, and I really value yung, kumbaga, yung notion of discomfort sa buhay and in other things. So, in its whole essence, kasi in life, no, kasi when you're faced with a very discomforting or unsettling situation in life, you're basically forced to face and deal with your true self, or para bang it pulls you out sa sarili mo, and you get to see the world in a different light. So I guess yun yung yun yung correlations ko with the serpents, kasi doon ko nakikita yung characteristics ng serpents when it comes to yung discomfort. I see them na sila very misunderstood creatures kasi sila eh. And also, tagal kasi bata pa ako, mahilig na ako sa snake. So parang ever since nababasa ko na parang grabe pala yung process nila of shedding and molting, no? Parang sobrang inspired ako doon kasi for them to be able to grow, no, to renew themselves, they have to go to shed their old skin. And for that, it's very painful pala for them. Tapos yung pala yung pinaka-vulnerable stage nila. Tapos technically, they're kind of blind pag nandun sila sa stage na yun. Kaya very aggressive din sila, which is very, yun nga, misunderstood, no? So I can relate to that. And I guess siguro, kaya rin, mostly, yung ginamit ko sa show sa Lake Predicament is yung mga shapes or forms ng snakes, kasi parang ano sa akin yung alam mo yung parang survival ng human nature, yung trauma response siya, yung 4 Fs na fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So yun, parang basically dun nagre-revolve yung affinity ko with serpents.
Yeah, in fact, I saw that show here in Manila, no? But was that also your show in Singapore? Did you just move it from Singapore to Manila?
Different po yung yung works ko sa Singapore. But I guess nagmumukha lang same kasi meron ding elements na forms ng mga snakes. And actually hindi siya more on snakes, puro mga rope type na nagmumukha lang snakes din yung ginawa ko sa Singapore.
I see. So hindi siya because it's Year of the Snake. Somebody asked that question. Hindi naman.
Hindi naman po.
Okay. Sige. So, for all three of you, how does one start their journey in becoming a ceramic artist? I mean, an exhibiting ceramic artist.
Who wants to start? I'll start. Exhibiting ceramic artist, that's the difficult part. But as a ceramics artist, of course, that's why we had segment 1 yesterday. You have to go through the basic techniques, the 4 basic techniques: pinching, coiling, slab making, and the last step is wheel throwing. You polish your skills, and then I guess at the beginning you try to join group shows and see the feedback. And if you're lucky enough, there will be a gallery or a gallery owner will approach you and offer you a show, and that will be basically your jump start to your career, to be able to exhibit. Ella?
Okay, so for me, when I got into ceramics, I focused mainly on making functional wares kasi sobra akong na-attach sa paggamit ng wheel. So, kagaya ng sinabi kahapon, yung pottery wheel is actually very addicting. So, as I was doing that and I was given the opportunity to join group shows sa university, I was slowly inching my way to making more conceptual works or sculpture works kasi nasa studio arts din naman yung background ko. So, sa pagpunta sa pagiging exhibiting ceramic artist, I don't think there's one formula for that. In my case, I was just very fortunate enough to be invited or parang mapansin ng galleries or a gallery owner. Tapos from then, ayun, nagtuloy-tuloy na siya. So I think just keep making works.
Yes, I agree with Pablo and Ella. Siguro for me then, para kumbaga kung iisipin mo, depende din kasi yun eh, kung talaga bang intention mo, talaga na, yun talaga ba yung goal mo, or kumbaga kung naturally lang din na gusto mo lang gumawa. So for me, yun nga, very important din talaga yung fundamentals muna, syempre talaga. Parang you have to be confident enough also for your techniques then. And of course, yung kumbaga meron ka bang storya na gusto mong i-share when you're exhibiting, di ba? So for me then also, sa experience ko, hindi ko siya talaga parang naging end goal. Kumbaga actually very intimidating nga for me para ever since parang intimidating for me na mag-show sa mga galleries. Parang hindi ko talaga naisip na mag-show gagawa ko ng shows eh. So gusto ko lang talaga gumawa ng gumawa. Tapos parang yun, lucky enough din ako na to have been invited or magkaroon ako, may mga gusto mag-invite sa akin to have group shows with friends. Una nagsisimula yan with your circle eh. Mga same, kumbaga meron kayong same na mga goals, visions, o mga adhikain, mga stories na gustong i-share. So yun, ganun din siya for me.
Okay, so it's similar. In this process, have you discovered a signature style, or is there a way that when people see your work, they already know that it's Ella's or Krista's or Pablo's? And how were you able to get to that point if the answer is yes?
Siguro I can start, no? Parang for me kasi hindi ako personally, I'm not really keen on boxing or that talagang defining my own style. Maybe because I really love working with various techniques and exploring mga different mediums, no? Parang pero I guess kung tatanungin yung bodies of work ko, siguro merong commonality din, kaya nagkakaroon ng distinction. Pero yun, mostly kasi yung bodies of work ko, parang very intimate siya, set to a narrative, parang setting, then tone, no? Pero feeling ko, no, sa nakikita ko din, mostly sa mga recent works ko, nandun yung nagpa-prompt siya of a very unsettling or very discomforting sense na medyo grotesque na rin yung iba. And physicality-wise naman, medyo parang for me, naturally nadadrawn ako sa maraming, I'm more drawn sa medyo subdued colors, tones, whenever I use glazes or mga raw materials, parang mas nandun ako sa subdued colors, earth tones. But I tend to go heavy on textures also. Pero sa totoo lang, wala yung consciousness din eh. Para kasi when you're working, hindi ko na iniisip na gusto ko particularly talaga ganitong color yung lumabas. Pero kasi sobrang technical niya, minsan gusto mo din naturally or organic din siya mangyari. So yeah.
Sige. I agree about your works being quite disturbing. I mean, that's what's very attractive about it, Chris. Seriously. I mean that you can convey that through ceramics. It's actually quite amazing. Yeah,
Thank
Ella.
you.
I know it's the opposite of Ella's, which is smooth repetition. You have you kind of have similar vessels in a series, like when you present your. Anyway, sige, Ella. I don't want to answer for you. Go ahead.
Right, yes. Well, tama. Well, I do agree. So I also agree with Krista na that I don't try to box my style or my aesthetic. Pero looking back or stepping back and seeing the body of works that I've made, parang they're just very reflective of that period in your life or my life. Na parang at this point in time, ito yung mga questions sa utak ko that I want to address. So siguro that's why I made a series of those yung mass-produced objects or forms na paulit-ulit lumalabas dun sa mga series na ginagawa ko. Then slowly transitioning to other problems or questions in my head na hindi na siya parehas nung dati na iniisip ko yung contemporary consumerist culture or practices. So parang it's sumasabay lang din siya dun sa period of your life kung ano na yung concerns mo at that point. Tapos when it comes to aesthetic, parang hindi mo siguro siya maaalis talaga or mahihiwalay sa paggawa mo kasi depende siya sa paghawak mo or paghagod mo dun sa material. So lalabas at lalabas din siguro siya. So yeah, that's what I think.
As for me, I like biomorphic shapes because in reality, there's no such thing as a straight line. If you really look into a microscope, you'll never see a straight line. So I think that's the essence of nature, which also goes back to my second inspiration. I like nature. I live in a farm, but I love the ocean. So corals, like the natural color tones, blue, dark gray underneath. That's yung mga different colors of the mga sea creatures. Those are basically what I try to emulate when I create my works. That's basically it.
Ella, do you still have items from your tin can series? An anonymous attendee is asking.
From those previous works, wala na. But I've actually just made a few pieces this past month kasi I'm preparing for a presentation for Ceramics Congress. So they wanted me to present or show how I make those. So actually I do have some now. So kung sino man si Anonymous.
When is the Ceramics
Maybe you
Congress?
can.
That sounds interesting, huh?
The
When
Ceramics Congress is an online ceramics festival from May 26 to May 30. So it's only an online presentation or demonstration. So the items will be still with me. So if you're interested, you may contact me directly.
Wait, baka you can type in the chat box the website name of the Ceramic Congress, because I'm sure everybody here is interested. It's like exciting.
Actually, Ella, can you talk about that a little more? What's the yung concept ng Ceramics Congress and like who invited you? Para we know.
Yes.
Ay, wait lang. Kodjo. Baka kasi may makalimutan akong details. So yung Ceramics Congress for this year is actually based in Australia. So they'll be focusing more on Australian ceramics. Pero they also invite ceramic artists from all over the world to present their processes or techniques. So I've been fortunate enough to be invited by the art director, si Vipu, Vipu Srivilasa. Tapos the Ceramics Congress will have 72 hours of content and over 40 plus speakers. So actually ngayon, so it's a good time to plug this kasi they have an early bird fee of $10 until April 30. So the whole 72 hours of content you can get with just $10. So go to their website, It's ceramic.school/the-ceramics-congress. There.
Okay, if we didn't get that, maybe
I'll type it on the
Oh, sige. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. So, but they're going to be workshops, so it would be really the target audience would be ceramicists like you guys or laymen like us. What is the
No, from beginners to intermediate and advanced. They have all skill levels.
Okay, great. Sige, Krista, next question is for you. What's your recent exhibition?
So for my your recent exhibition ko po is I was fortunate to be invited by the Philippine Embassy in Vientiane in Laos. So yeah, we have a group show there focusing for the Women's Month. No, it's actually focusing on exploring the objects and spaces that you think na nagre-represent ang mga kababaihan from their values sa advocates nila. So, lalo na in this contemporary times. So, yun yung theme ng show namin.
Wait, so it's in Laos. It's are you the only one from the Philippines for that one?
Lahat. Actually, lahat kami, puro mga Filipino.
I see. Sorry. So it's a Philippine embassy organizing it.
Yes.
And are you all ceramic artists or different media?
Different medium lahat. Oo. But Ali Candeon is one of the other artists din na nagpo-focus on ceramics.
Okay. Another question from Catherine Choachuy. For the three of you, do you have a dream installation that you would like to do, given that you can decide on how big the space will be? Any bucket lists, I guess.
Siguro, I can go first. Kasi ang dami kong dream
installation. Sa amin lahat, okay.
Siguro, parang first, top of my mind siguro, may dream installation talaga ako sa gubat or parang sa sobrang laking abandoned space. Parang, yun yung parang sobrang every time na may gusto akong gawin, parang shucks, doon ako nag-drawn to sa space na yun. Yun. That's for me.
For me naman, I wouldn't say dream installation, but I'll give an example. I think it was in 2018. Mark Valenzuela invited me. We were invited to be part of the Australian Triennale, and it was a dream installation because we were paid to go there. We were given a residency in University of Tasmania. We stayed there for 1 month. We had stipend. And at the end, whatever we made for that month, we were one of the main exhibitors for the whole Triennale. So the pressure of, like the same as the Singapore show of Ella and Krista, whatever happens, the show must go on. So you better get your act together. And it's a dream come true kasi you're in a foreign place. And then I guess another dream installation is just to keep joining these biennales and triennales and be able to represent our country and also just spread the word of for clay.
Parang maganda yung dream ni Sir Pabs, yung grant-based na grand installation. Kasi parang as of now, I don't think I can dream of doing that just yet. Kasi you have to consider so many things, budget pa lang, and then you also have to have that confidence to execute that grand installation. So sa ngayon, I'm still working on that confidence. So for now, yung pinaka-grand siguro na gusto ko, I want to be able to collaborate with other artists.
Other ceramic artists, or are you talking about?
Not just limited to ceramic artists.
Okay, next question from Jana May Lagno. Hi po, I actually admire these kinds of works as a senior high student, and I'm curious if the starting point is really hard. This is my first time attending, and it's an honor po to be in here and able to listen from experts. How does she start?
It goes back to the basics. Segment 1, basics of pottery. I think maybe it'd be nice, Tricky, to let them know that the people that miss segment 1, you could view it eventually again.
Yes, just to let everybody know, we will be uploading the talks in our YouTube channel. Art Fair Philippines is a YouTube channel where all our talks are actually uploaded. We do it after the fair ends. So, and we'll announce it when all the talks are there. So don't worry, you have a chance to listen to segment 1. But Krista and Ella weren't there yesterday. So kayo, I mean, what are your tips for like somebody like her, interested, senior high student? How does she get to where you guys are now?
Siguro, personally, for me, ano siya, talagang pinaka-important ingredient talaga patience, and I guess yung dedication, yung willingness mo to really do it and pursue it. Kasi maraming kailangan aralin, challenging, frustrating siya. Mahaba-haba talaga yung journey. In fact, it's like a never-ending yung learning curve niya, no? So I guess for me, dun talaga yung starting point eh. Basta gusto mo yung willing kang mag-dedicate ng sarili mo dun. Yun.
Yeah, sige. For the third time, I want to emphasize yung beginning from the basics kasi yung learning the fundamentals, you'll get to know your materials and the process better. So bago ka mag-invest in a career in ceramics, I guess you have to be able to familiarize yourself with all of that. Kasi kagaya nga ng sabi ni Krista, the whole practice is a learning curve. So ang daming risk-taking involved. So you really have to have that discipline and the patience to work through all those.
You all mentioned that right now there's so many online resources to get started, diba? So maybe that's something you can do, Jana May, right? Is there like a particular workshop on YouTube that you recommend that maybe is good for beginners like her? Because I know even there now, when there are now people who can even go to your house and you do a ceramic pottery session during parties, diba? So I don't know if that's someplace, but is there like a YouTube channel or somebody that they can watch? Anybody's series?
If you just Google basic pottery tricky, there's a lot na out there. It's all over the world. I guess like we mentioned yesterday, it's pottery's gaining momentum and popularity. So just access to YouTube. There's a lot of free information talaga.
Okay. From Giselle Carandang, you mentioned in your video about using your experience as inspiration or a part of your inspiration for your work. Do you have a specific process on how you figure out how to translate that to your art? I mean, is there a process or it just hits you, you wake up today and yeah, Krista, you just decide, parang gusto ko ng snakes or I don't know.
Yung siguro yung context ng how do you know or how do you even translate yung ideas mo o yung inspirations mo sa actual work, diba? Parang para sa akin kasi of course nandun din yung yun nga katulad na na-mention namin kayo na parang yung it's like an urge for me personally, parang syempre marami kang inspirations, parang andun yun sa utak mo, andun yung influences mo, but at the end of the day, yung current, kung kailan ka nagagawa, depende din yun. Ano yung purpose, yung intention ng paggawa mo nung trabaho, parang gagawa ka ba ng trabaho dahil na-invite ka sa isang show or gusto mo lang gawin to on your own pace and time. So siguro may mga ganong variables to consider, and of course, doon nag-iiba-iba yung approach. Kasi for me, for example, kung biglang may invitation for a show, meron timeline yon. No, parang I don't have all the time in the world para mag-isip ng kung ano man. Pero syempre, kung ano yung pinaka-immediate concern ko, ano yung gusto kong i-explore, that's how I really get into that mind space kung ano yung gagawin ko for that material and for that piece. And doon na pumapasok siguro yung uh, combination na ng thought and creative process mo na iisipin mo na anong klaseng approach, anong klaseng materials, anong clay, anong gagawin ko, anong ibang raw materials na gusto ko isama, anong firing technique ang gusto ko dito o gusto ko ba siya ng raw clay na. So, ang daming variables na pwede mo na i-consider when you're translating it into an actual work. Yeah. How about you, Ella?
So for me, considering the form na gagamitin ko for the concept, minsan kasi it's the concept that comes first. Minsan it's the curiosity for the object or the form. Tapos from then, you do your research. Kasi it can't always be yung sarili mo lang opinion yung gagamitin mo. Kasi you're presenting the works to an audience. So especially if you're exhibiting the works, syempre alam mo na makikita siya ng ibang tao. So you think about how they can relate to the work. It's not always your own personal opinion na ibabalandra mo dun sa work. Tapos when it comes to the creative process, I think there are, I don't know if there are more than two types. Pero I think the first one, may mga artists that they just make the work and then think about the concept of the work later on, or they step back and try to analyze kung anong nangyari dun sa process for them to come up with this kind of work. And the other type of artist would be someone who plans everything first and then executes the work. So I can't say that one process works better than the other, pero I think for the most part, I'm the type of artist who plans everything first. Pero given the ceramic process, ang daming room for chances or pagbabago dun sa work. So I embrace those chances. Tapos later try to assess and understand how that fits into the concept. So there.
Pablo, no?
For me,
Sali ka.
no, sorry. For me, kasi, when I do my installations, what I did was I created this mute monkeys with Mark. Kasi I'm really a traditional potter, but then eventually when I started creating sculptures, like I really had fun with it, like because your ideas, you can relate it with clay, and then at the same time during the process it grows, and it can change, and you can get derailed nga, sometimes if you get carried away. That's why when Ella talks about, you really have to plan. You can't just make stuff and bahala na si Batman and create a concept. There's still a plan. There's parang an idea. You start with that idea and then you play with it. And that's why it's called mute monkeys. There's no identity. Like I can make my work, Mark can draw on it. Mark can make his work, I can draw on it. Basta magbi-mix talaga, it's a collab when I do my installations. And from there, we'll meet, kasi he's based in Australia, we'll meet today. We talk about an idea, he leaves, and we don't see each other for 6 months or a year. We messenger once in a while, and then when we see each other, we put everything together. So we have a plan. Then when we execute the plan kind of changes and grows. But it's still from that idea. And the beauty of it, there's no identity. So you could just really go wild and go crazy. Because sometimes, I guess, when you have this particular style and you tend to really just be, yun na yung nagiging identity mo, and it becomes monotonous. So this one, you're carefree. You just let go and see how wild, or how many techniques and how many like different shapes, firing style, colors, textures, everything, and you can test the limits. So that's how I work.
Okay, related to us, while we're talking about creative process, question from Mark, since you brought him up. Hello, Mark and Anna here. When you develop a body of work, is it important to you that your material relates to your concept? As in, do you consider the conceptual basis for working with clay for each new work or exhibition? And do you work with other materials when relevant to the concepts you are exploring?
Ang
For
daming
me, for
questions.
me, because clay is the center of the main medium of the whole installation. You have to find a way. If there was an idea given to you, you have to find a way how you can relate clay to that, because it might be so simple, but its versatility is really, really, really so broad that there are ways that you can really connect it. But then at the same time, you can put together found objects when you're installing the work already. And this is the part where I say, now your ideas can grow. And then you can put it all together without going away from the idea, but letting it grow and making it more meaningful. Krista?
Anything to add, Krista or Ella?
For me siguro, sorry, ang haba ng question. Tatlo yatang questions yan in one. But for me siguro, yung considering the materiality and maybe nandun na rin yung techniques on how do I go about my pieces. Definitely nandun yun. But I value that. Kasi for me, mas process-based din ako pag gumagawa. Mas importante sa akin na nagko-correlate yung material ko, yung technique ko, nagka-transcend siya dun sa concept ko. So, kaya actually isa yon sa reason kaya bakit ako very drawn to ceramics kasi yung lahat ng full essence ng discipline ng ceramics and yung materiality niya, sobrang swak siya dun sa mga ginagawa ko. So, with Ella.
So for me, it's the context of clay as a material does provide a strong foundation para dun for the concepts of my work. I think that's why I stuck to making those vessels kasi lagi kong binabalikan yung history of ceramics, yung function nila as vessels. So, yeah, yun, hindi ako lumalayo dun sa historical context ng ceramics. And same with Krista, I try to always consider the process when thinking of the ideas of my works. Sorry, hindi ko maalala kung meron pang ibang follow-up question.
Wait, ako rin. I have to go back. Come on. Also in your video, Krista, you mentioned that you go by the feel on how to stop, but there are certain thresholds in the medium that tells you when. May I know what kind of thresholds they are? This is also Jaisal Karandang.
Oh, ang dami actually. Ang daming threshold na kailangan mo i-consider kasi basically bottom line nun kasi yung characteristic mismo ng medium yun And siguro for me pag iniisip ko pa lang siya, siguro nandun yung paano mo magagawa yung pieces mo, maaalagaan mo yung work in progress mo na pyesa nang hindi nagka-crack yung clay kasi may tendency siya pag medyo dry enough siya. Medyo nagka-crack siya. So kailangan alam mo yung mga techniques on how to take care of it. Paano yung height? Yun, ko-consider mo kasi kung hindi ka patient enough para ma-achieve mo yung height, gusto mo agad mataas. Magugulat ka pagtingin mo bumagsak na gumewang na pala yung pyesa mo or wala na, napunit na pala siya. So, nandun din yung siguro, ano pa ba, parang ang dami. Pag inisa-isa ko, maybe Ella could actually add more and tabs.
When do you stop? When do you know that?
That's
This is
very,
a guess or
that's very tricky because you can overdo things and really that's why you have to have a plan. You have to have an idea, and also one of the best things is when you have a deadline, you're gonna have to stop eventually because You have to put everything
Oo.
together. And sometimes what I do is when you have your work, your body of work, you gotta step away from it, get a breather, and kasi when you're with them, they start to look the same, and sometimes they don't communicate. But when you're making it, it communicates with you. When it's done firing and they're all there, because you've been seeing it every day, it's like you're looking at yourself in the mirror. Then did I lose weight? Did I gain weight? If you look at the mirror every day, you're not gonna be able to tell. So you gotta get out of that environment of your works, go chill out, and then come back maybe a couple of days later, and then you'll see, and then it'll resonate. Okay, is this enough for the installation? Kompleto na ba? What do I have to add? What do I have to take out? And how will I install it? So parang ganun yung process niya.
Sige, Mike Tomacruz, we're talking about when to end. Mike Tomacruz wants to know how you start. I mean, how you start, not once you've kind of threshed out your concepts, do you draw the piece that you have in mind? Or what's the first, I guess, step that you take to translate your concepts? In terms of, I mean, yeah, once you've threshed out the concept in your head, what's the first physical step you take?
Draw.
Is it a drawing?
Drawing and planning, because you need to draw it out. And then with ceramics, you have to work backwards, Tricky. You have to have that idea, the final product. You have to imagine it. You have to, for example, this cup. I have to imagine this cup. What's the shape? What's the color? How I'm going to fire it? What kind of clay will I use? And so you break it down backwards from 10 going to 1. Then when you have that plan already, then you do the 1 to 10. And then you finish. That's how the process goes for me.
Krista, Ella, is it the same?
For me, siguro, parang very natural, immediate response ng sarili ko pag kailangan ko or pag may concept na ako, then I do draw. Yun talaga. Magdo-draw ako. Or kapag hindi ko makuha sa 2D drawing, yung parang, kasi syempre 3D yung gagawin kong sculpture eh. Parang may mga other aspect of first angles ako na gusto makuha or gusto ko ma-solve kung paano ko gagawin yung technical side. So, gumagawa ako ng parang sobrang draft maquette. Alam mo yun, parang, kasi with clay, madali, pwede ka kumuha lang ng piece of clay, then gawa kang maquette. Di kailangan na maganda, nandun lang yung essence ng form mo. And then, pag gano'n na yung ginagawa ko, mas, okay, gets. Alam ka na kung paano kong gagawin to, paano ko, ilang parts yung gagawin kong pyesa. Tapos, katulad din sabi ni Pabs, after nun, immediately, kailangan consider mo yung planning. Careful planning, kailangan yan. Kasi, lalo na kung you're working with several pieces o mas mga medyo malalaki na, o mga composite nga, diba? Parang hindi pwedeng, minsan may mga pyesa na malaki, or kahit intricate, na hindi pwedeng all at once gagawin mo lang siya as one piece. Kailangan mo siya i-break down. So, with that, pag nagsisketch ka, drawing man yan, or maquette, nandun din talaga yung problem solving. Para siyang math talaga. So, problem solving talaga.
For you, Ella?
Sa akin, when I plan for installation works mostly, I try to draw. Hindi ako magaling mag-drawing, pero I try to plot it out kasi you want to see or be able to visualize the work against a space. So after drawing, iisipin ko which pieces do I do first. So usually, I try to do the pieces na pinaka-intricate or pinaka-risky or pinaka may malaking chance masira para I can plan for a backup. So, mostly ganun yung ginagawa ko. You start by visualizing the whole installation and then plot everything out. So, do steps 1 to 10. Ganun din.
Okay, sige. We have a little time left, but we have several questions, so I'll just take them in order, huh? To all of you, what are your other themes in ceramics? I'm not sure how I understand that question. What does he mean by other themes?
Maybe like traditional works or Yeah, that's a little confusing, tricky.
Yeah, maybe it needs to be clarified. Sige, let's go to the next. How long did it take you for your technical ability to catch up to what you wanted to create? What were the biggest challenges? That's from Paolo Lozano.
Sige, pwede ko sagutin yun first.
Mm-mm.
I think yung when it comes to ceramics, yung ability mo actually kind of dictates what you do or what you're capable of doing. Kasi ang hirap pagka you want to dream big. Parang masyado kang confident, pero yung skills mo wala pa dun. Medyo sasablay ka talaga with ceramics. Kasi it's very, very, very technical.
Krista, sa'yo.
I agree with Ella. Parang siguro ano din talaga, yun nga, depende din talaga siya sa, magre-reflect din talaga yung technical skills sa kaya mong gawin. Pero I understand, kasi kahit ako, nung nag-start ako, ambitious ako with mga gusto ko eh. So parang talagang, feeling ko kaya ko na, gagawin ko to. Tapos, parang the clay will humble you eh. Magugulat ka na wala sablay or sumabog siya sa kiln. So, alam mo yon parang it's really also a journey. Kaya talaga yung ceramics din, it's a good, ang ganda ng practice kasi it grounds you continuously yan. Hanggang ngayon, may mga gusto akong gawin, pero alam ko hindi ko pa siya kaya or I need to work on some specific technical skills pa. So, yun. Exciting siya sa totoo lang. Ang dami parang nilo-look forward to. Yun.
It's hard to put a timeline to it, tricky. It's really, you need to, as Ella and Krista says, the more you do it, the more technically sound your skills become. And that's why practice, remember I mentioned yesterday, it's like a marathon. You can't run a marathon right away. So you just got to keep doing it and keep at it. And eventually your works become bigger, they become more intricate. You learn how to create the proper foundation to make bigger works. You learn how to fire them properly because it doesn't necessarily mean that you were able to make a work. It's okay already. You have to remember it needs to go through a firing process. And the bigger you go, the more delicate to how to fire the piece, the work of art. And aside from that, you also have to decide kasi like what color tones or what texture you're gonna put into it. So ano talaga yan eh. It's a forever learning, and the longer you are at it and you keep at it, you can relay your. Of course, you become ambitious eh. You just figure it out. It gets better and better and better, and then one day it will explode, and then you're grounded again, and you're like, what did I do wrong? I thought I had it figured out, and then you backtrack again, and then you break it down again, and then you learn again. So it's a cycle. It's these things happen. You have to learn how to accept how to fail. If you don't know how to do this, you're not gonna succeed.
Well said. Okay. When you make functional ware, is a bowl just a bowl? Or is there a deeper significance to the pots you are making? Mr. Paburo Pots, maybe you can answer first.
Okay. I'll base it on culture. For us in the Philippines, it's just a bowl. It's an eating vessel. When I make my bowls for Paburo Pots, I can make 100 if I had to in one day. And you get detached. You have to be detached to the bowl because it's a different purpose. It's you sharing yourself and giving it to other people that can use it. But if we're talking about tea ceremony and you're making a chawan, this is a totally different experience na naman because the chawan or the tea bowl itself for the tea ceremony, according to the Japanese, not according, but the Japanese, there's scenery involved. There's a way during the ceremony how to use that tea bowl. There's a way how you mix the tea. There's a way how you serve the tea. There's a way how you drink off the tea bowl. So there's so many rules and proper ways na maiintindihan mo ba't ang lalim ng aesthetics nila with that bowl. And that's what I appreciate from what I've learned in Japan is you see it from a different perspective because just regarding, for example, in Shintoism, Japanese predominantly are Shinto religion. there's life in everything eh. So that bowl has a spirit. As opposed to us, it's a eating vessel lang. Kakainin, it looks pretty. Kakainin natin, it keeps my food warm. So those are the two angles that you can think about.
Ella, since you make a lot of functional wear, is a bowl just a bowl?
Sa
I mean-
akin, iba yung intention ko when I make conceptual work. In a way, when I make my functional work. When I make my functional work, yung primary yung primary consideration ko is how the piece functions. So dun ako nakatutok. Wala siyang concept, but I want to be able to make the experience of using the work the best that it can be. So yun lang yung consideration ko when I make my functional works. Iba siya with the conceptual pieces.
Krista, do you do functional pieces?
Yep. Yeah, I do also functional pieces. Pero for me, kasi minsan, ginagawa ko siya for personal use or sa friends ko. Pero siguro ang take ko doon, for me kasi yung parang it all boils down dun sa topic ng function, di ba? Yung para sa akin kasi yung function ng isang bagay, mapa-vessel man yan, o mapa-sculpture, maraming variables, di ba? Depende rin siya sa context. So I think yung work or yung piyesa mo or an object can really extend its relation in a physical sense din talaga. Tulad ng sinabi ni Pabs, no? Maraming context, like spirituality, yung tradition, yung culture. Depende na lang yun. No? I guess, nandun din yung intention o yung purpose, no? Na nabibigay mo dun sa hahawak o sa gagamit ng bagay. So, I find it na parang it's very fluid. Tsaka it really transcends.
So Krista, again for you, why is space important in making art? It made me curious and I want to be enlightened.
Well, for me, kasi lalo na pag gumagawa ko ng installation art, no, doon ko talaga kino-consider yung space. Kasi, syempre, parang doon, you're setting up an environment eh. Kasi whenever I do installation art, ganun ko siya ina-approach na it's a very sacred space na parang portal siya eh. Pag pumunta ka doon, yun, parang siya, specific siya to that. Ano yung nagagawa mo, ano yung napapalabas mo doon na nabibigay mong feeling. Basically it's a very experiential consideration siya sa akin. So, syempre, para sa akin, para ma-achieve ko yung gusto kong specific na yun, kailangan ko i-plan. Kasi, ang ganda imaginein, di ba? Ang dali imaginein, may vision ka. Pero kailangan mo siya i-put into work. Kailangan gumawa ka ng pyesa mo. Paano mo siya i-install? So, lahat nandun, biglang nagiging technical na siya bigla. Tapos minsan, yung vision mo, hindi nagta-translate na sobrang literal eh. Na nag-iiba siya kasi ang dami niyang considerations na kailangan mo i-consider. So, yun.
Okay, for all of you, how many attempts do you make before completing your masterpiece? I guess this is when you're doing a show. I mean,
You'd want to wish you don't have to make several attempts. You'd want to wish you get it at one go because it's a long process. I guess the way to answer that is you just go at it, and you just really have to pay attention to the detail, to that 1 to 10. And wala na ng attempts sana, pero what you do is we make backup work. Because you have to remember when you're working for a deadline, pag sumabog yung final piece mo, you're already near that deadline. You cannot start the process again. You can't fast forward the process. So no attempts. You just get it right and pray to the kiln gods.
Yeah.
is that the same for both of you, Krista and Ella?
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
Very much the same.
Okay, Next, what is your view or philosophy with color as a ceramicist? I feel that it is such a fickle or intimate thing, especially with the uncertainty of glazes, etc. I noticed last year I saw a show in New York. It was called Clay Pop, and what struck me was that they were all ceramic pieces, but they were all wildly colored. Something I don't see so much here. So maybe you can say something about that. Is it the availability of those glazes?
That's one thing, Tricky. The availability of raw materials. We're only starting to get imported raw materials. Going back to raw materials, because there's so many glazes. There's the base glaze, there's the underglaze, there's the glaze na final coat glaze, there's the overglaze, and then you fire it different ways, different atmospheres. So now we are getting these materials, and one reason that you don't see much of that here is because of the cost. The cost, it's quite expensive, and it's relevant when you're doing a show talaga eh. Like here in the Philippines, it's not a grant-based system. A lot of in other countries kasi it's grant-based, so you already have a budget. So you can when you do your plan, you can really play with raw materials. Here, as solo artists, you have to use your own money, and hopefully you sell your work so then you can buy more materials and go wild with them probably.
Sige, Krista and Ella, because Ella especially, your colors tend to be the more muted, neutral colors. Is there any reason for that, or there's just no interest in really making wildly colorful work? I'm just asking.
I agree yung kay Sir Pabs. Sobrang limited talaga nung available na materials dito. And even if I'd be able to access those materials, I think the color is also dictated by how you want the work to be presented. Kasi minsan, yung kulay, it distracts you from the form. So, kaya ako mas nandun sa muted na colors because I want the form to pop out more. So, ayun. Yun lang yung reason ko for using those colors. Tapos, wait, sorry. Add ko na lang. I don't like using a lot of glazes for the same reason that it kind of distracts you from the details. So I mostly work with just clay. So I don't color or glaze my works for the most part.
Krista, anything to add?
With me naman, I definitely agree. Strongly agree with Pabs na sinabi niya na limitations din talaga nung availability nung materials, raw materials. Kasi sa totoo lang, yun nga, onti lang din yung kaya mong magawa na glazes. Plus, nandun din yung kailangan mo i-consider yung kung kaya mo bang mapalabas yung kulay na yun kapag magpa-firing ka. Kasi, yun nga, again, nauuwi siya doon sa technical side ng firing on a specific glaze. So, para sa akin naman, yung approach ko kasi pag gumagawa ako ng works, pag kina-consider ko yung color, mas doon ako, syempre, mas ginagamit ko yung mga tried and tested ko na personally na colors. Na mga glazes, underglazes. Tapos yun nga, mas drawn din ako to working with raw clay. Gumagawa ako ng maraming slip colors. Parang mas leaning towards ako sa mga matte. Pero pag gusto ko mag-glossy texture, syempre, alam ko kung ano yung meron ako mga glazes na pwede kong gamitin. So, ganun din. Nagdi-dictate din minsan sa intention din talaga ng work. Kasi kung minsan may mga pyesa ako na gusto ko puro raw materials lang talaga yung gagamitin ko, yung mga naipong kong mga bato, gusto kong yun yung gawin ko, hayaan ko sila matunaw dun sa pyesa ko. So, depende din talaga siya dun sa series na gusto kong gawin.
Yeah, a question from Dara Villon. How competitive is the ceramics community and how do you foresee its growth and expansion in the future? I've observed the ceramics community and you guys are very supportive of each other actually. I mean, but that's from an outsider.
It's kasi tricky. If we start with sila John, you have to remember in the 70s there were only about 6 or 7 of them. And then when sila John and Adi created a school, then there were the hobbyists. So kahit na, even if you say there were more ceramic ceramic hobbyists naman yung lumabas, the 100% artist konti pa rin. And then when it came to my generation and Joey's generation, konti pa rin kami kasi we still didn't have online, YouTube, IG, all these information. So we only had each other to share our info and to get books, which was very scarce. Wala pang Amazon nga nun eh. So you become friends with these people. You have no choice. Because if you want to learn, you have to work as a community. And then moving on, ito na sila Ella and Krista. They're the first produce of UP. And we met them as students. And I think because we had this bond na we as a teacher, we learned from the students and we got to know each other better. So supportive. Now that there's online, it's becoming competitive, but I think it's a healthy competition. It's good to have competition. Otherwise, you get stagnant. It gets boring. So, but it depends na lang on the person if they think the competition is bad. Parang galingan mo na lang.
Do you guys agree, Ella and Krista?
Yeah.
He speaks for us kasi siya yung naka-experience nung scene dati hanggang ngayon.
Okay, so when you're invited for a show, do you feel pressured to perform or create works that will appeal to the audience, or do you stick with concepts that you personally want to pursue?
I'll go ahead. For me, personally, pag gumagawa ako ng piece o ng piece or ng exhibit talaga, mas talagang nangingibabaw yung kung ano yung gusto ko, yung honest intention ko, yung gusto kong ma-come across dun sa audience. Of course, ko-consider mo sila pero not in a way for me to please them. Siguro mas importante sa akin na maiparating ko, mag-reflect yung gusto ko, yung message ko dun sa pyesa, dun sa installation, at magkaroon sila ng experience, ma-experience nila yon. Kumbaga kung ano yung take nila doon, ano yung interpretation nila doon, ano yung experience nila doon, wala na sa akin yun eh. Hindi ko nahawak yun, sa kanila yun. Pero for me, yun, importante sa akin na come across ko yun sa mga audience.
Ella, ikaw?
So, babalik ako dun sa sinabi ko kanina. That when you make a when you make a work for a show, since ilalabas mo siya sa space kung saan makikita siya ng ibang tao, kasama na dapat sila dun sa intention mo or when you plan your work. Kasi when you make a work just for yourself, bakit mo pa siya gustong ilabas sa mundo kung hindi mo naman iisipin how other people will see the work? Pero kagaya ng sinabi ni Krista, hindi mo na hawak how they see the work, how they experience the work, or kung ano yung opinion nila about the work. Kasi when you release it outside the world, outside sa mundo, yun, sa kanila na yun.
I think it's also, it's hard. You have to think about your audience, but then you in a way, it's your show, so do what you want to do. And because the audience nga have different ideas. Some will like your work, some won't like your work. But then the people that don't like your work, in a weird way, you learn from them. So for me, I'd like to I'm going to do what I want to do regarding what the concept is. And then I try to see what my audience tell me, and then I learn from that. And maybe eventually, I'll add on to what I do next time, or maybe not. It really depends.
Okay. Quite a logistical question. Haha. How does one acquire their own kiln? I'm quoting verbatim. Krista, siguro ikaw na, since you said in the beginning that you just got your kiln.
Oo. How do you acquire it? Marami namang ways actually. Lalo na ngayon. Dati kasi parang yung way lang dati is kung makaswerte kang makahanap ka ng may second hand na kiln, or kung kaya mong kung patulong ka, gumawa ka ng sarili mong wood kiln or yung mga DIY na mga lata na or mag-pit fire ka. Pero ngayon, yun nga, katulad na sinabi ni Pabs kahapon, nanood ako nung kanila yesterday, no? Nabanggit doon na ang dami na ngayon na nagpo-produce, gumagawa ng electric kiln, gas kiln. So parang basta may budget ka, you can ask for help to create your dream kiln.
Okay, from Mark to Krista. You explore quite personal experiences in your work. Do you find this process cathartic or is it emotionally draining? Does it take a toll?
For me, yeah, very very personal nga yung mga themes ko or like ideas ko when I translate it to my work. And for me, siya hindi naman siya sobrang draining. Pero actually for me, very therapeutic siya. Kasi yun yung, kaya nga pinursu ko din, isa yun sa reason kaya ako pinursu yung ceramics eh. Kasi it's very, parang it helps me really manage myself, my life. Kasi I have a chronic anxiety and I've learned that nung nandito ako, inaaral ko na yung ceramics, I'm handling clay. It really helps me ground myself and stabilize me. No, it's a very intimate process kasi din siya in medium eh. So kung ganun din ka-intimate yung nila, yung kinakam across ko na ideas doon, hindi sila nagka-clash eh. Mas lalo nga sila nagko-complement and nakakatulong talaga siya sa akin. Kasi when you touch clay, it really allows you to have that connection and the conversation, not only with the material, natututunan mo yung material, yung behavior niya, but also, pag gumagawa ako ng clay, or I guess nakaka-relate lahat, no? Pag gumagawa ka na ng clay mo, hand building man yan o wheel throwing, parang it puts you into a certain trance-like state, no? Parang nagkakaroon ka ng gano'n na parang minsan mas nagkakaroon ka ng reflection, kausap mo yung sarili mo, nagugulat ka na, parang nadi-deal with ko. Ako, ang dami nag-flashback lahat sa akin, yung mga unsettled issues ko pala in life. And then eventually, para akong may therapist. So, ganun yung dating sa akin. And that's why siguro ganun ako ka-drawn into narrating this or parang translating all of this experience ko sa clay para rin to baka-relate yung mga tao. So, yun.
Thanks a lot. Ella, from Mark also, you are active in the community and politically. Do you see this part of your life as connected to your practice or quite separate?
Wow, loaded question. Sa akin yung pagiging active sa community. Well, I'm not super active politically, pero hindi siya hiwalay sa art. Parang I think before, ayoko lang siyang pag-usapan, kaya hindi ko siya ginagamit as concepts dun sa trabaho ko. Pero syempre, especially recently, so parang I have so much strong feelings about politics na lumalabas na lang siya sa trabaho ko. Tapos I think it works, kind of works, kasi people like seeing, parang mas visual yung mga tao eh. Parang kahit makipagbardagulan ka online, ang hirap for the people to listen. So, pag nakita nila in visual form, I think mas may connection sa tao.
Where can we see these political works, Ella? Are they exhibited anywhere? Or are they just with you in your social media pages? I'm curious for myself. I want to see them.
I think I've exhibited them pero wala na yung exhibitions eh. But I think one of my installations, yung tabo system, might be installed again in parang medyo informal exhibition siya. But I exhibited that with Tinaw Gallery noong 2019. And I also have a few pieces, medyo political yung atake ng pieces, pero very subtle. Dun sa 16 show, which was curated by Angel Velasco.
I see. Okay. Hi, Krista, Ella, and Pablo from Jakarta, from Antin Sambodo. Always
And
love your works.
Hi,
Have you,
Antin.
have you ever have a problem with clay plasticity? Because like Krista's works, it needs to bend the clay to make snakes. Do you mix the clay and the snakes? Is it hollow or solid?
For me, yeah, kasi for example, ako, I use the Thai clay and then I basically mix yung local terracotta natin, no? Kailan-kailan na lang naman nagkaroon kami ng access to like yung mga specialty clays from Japan or from India. But since I started working with that, actually with UP Clay, may sariling timpla yung UP. And then, nung tapos na yung workshop, tapos na yung pag-aaral sa UP, nagkaroon ka ng access biglang Thai clay, sobrang frustrating. The plasticity of it was really frustrating at first kasi yung mga forms that I really want to create, hindi siya talaga for that. Kasi when you're doing sculptural, mostly dapat heavily grogged yung clay body mo. And kung hindi ganon, yung maayos yung timpla mo, frustrate ka talaga. Pero for example, with my serpent snakes forms, biglang naging naging advantage yung plasticity. So I guess talagang depende siya sa form na gagawin mo at kailangan alam mo yung dapat o requirement for that form, ano yung perfect o yung tamang timpla o klase ng clay for that. And siguro to answer Antine's question regarding the forms, the snake forms, if they're hollow or not. Some are hollow and some are not coiled. So yeah.
Okay, just a comment from Antine again. I'm always amazed with Ella's works. You make the artworks with throwing techniques while the others make a similar artwork with casting techniques. Okay, one last question from an anonymous attendee to all of you. Your thoughts on someone who wants to shift to becoming a full-time potter but comes from a totally different background. I've been wanting to get into pottery, but I have always been intimidated as everyone holds a fine arts degree. Also, since I know that I still have much to learn, would you say that it might be too late for someone like me to start now? The person doesn't give the age or whether he or she's a practicing artist in another medium.
I don't have a fine arts degree.
Okay.
So that's one answer to her or him. You have to really consider it because the financial stability is the biggest issue, to be honest. It's not about if you're creative enough, if you can do it. I really think anybody, if they put their head into it and stubborn enough and give it time, they can learn naman pottery. The issue is, will it feed and put food on the table? Kasi there's a learning curve, and that learning curve, iba-iba bawat tao, tricky. So it's really, but right now is a good time to do it if you really want to do it because all the materials, the kilns, everything's available locally now. So sorted, and like it's there, it's right in front of you. Financial stability will be the next question, and depends how stubborn you are also.
Sige, last thoughts on that note, Ella and Krista, before we close.
Siguro for me, hindi naman talaga, never naman naging prerequisite na kailangan may degree ka with art school, proper art schooling, diba? Parang, para sa akin, if you really, sapat na yung gusto mo talaga siya. Kasi with that, kahit ano pang background mo, field na galing, kung dedicated ka to learn, gagawin mo kakayanin mo. And for me, siguro ang thoughts ko on that, as much as with life, right? You really need to be open to possibilities. So you don't box yourself na hanggang dito lang ako, or ito lang kasi yung field ko, or medyo too late na ba, matanda na ba ako, or ganito. It's never too late. So yeah, just be open and enjoy life.
Sige, Ella, the last words are from you.
Okay, so yung degree hindi siya necessary for learning pottery kasi I think everyone na basta dedicated ka, you have the discipline and you have the patience, kaya mo siyang matutunan, pero you have to remain humble. Tapos siguro I can suggest siguro maybe dip your toes in the water first. Subukan mo lang muna before you invest everything sa pagpasok sa pottery. Kasi it's a very welcoming community, lalo dito sa Philippines where it's parang growing community pa lang siya. It's very intimate still. So yun, it's a good time to start now.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much. Another productive full session for this Sessions in Clay.
Thank you, Tricky.
Yeah, no, I really learned so much. And my gosh, for 2 days, I have so much respect for all of you. I mean, I already did, but I have even more now listening to you guys go through, especially your creative processes. O sige, so before we close, sorry, we need a group shot. And sorry, audience, you have to watch us to the group shot. So, makismile na lang kayo. Okay. Yeah, Therese, you'll count. Okay.
Yes, give us your biggest smile. 3, 2, 1, smile. One more. 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you.
Thank you again, Pablo. So we have one more session tomorrow. Very exciting. We have John Pettijohn and Joey De Castro with us. I'm super excited for that. So thank you, guys.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having
Bye.
us.
Thank you. So before we close completely, let me just say thank you again. Big thank you to J Studio for making this possible. And of course, our education partners for Art Fair PH Talks, the Ateneo Art Gallery, Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and the Embassy of Spain in the Philippines. Next up today, it's a very good conversation happening it's at 4:00 p.m. I thought it was 1:00. A conversation about Lázaro Aro Soriano and the art of storytelling. As most of you may know, we feature the works of Aro Soriano in the Art Fair PH project section that is live at Ayala Triangle. It's the weekend, so there's no excuse not to visit our installations at Ayala Triangle or to do a gallery hop. The website will give you a great guide on how to schedule your gallery hop so you can visit all the participating exhibitors of Art Fair Philippines in their own locations. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you again tomorrow.